We're in pain, and this is the cost of putting us out of our misery. Because we're America's most tepid podcast, The Pod People. I'm Matisse Van Rossum, and I've been brain fucked since birth.
That was mine!
You said you had a second one.
I do.
I'm Ben Sheets, and hold up now, you mean to be telling me I can't believe what I see on TV?
That's right. You can't believe it. It's not butter. Or fire. Hello. Hi there. I am number 5. I'm in Cleveland Mosier. That was a movie about psychics, right? I don't know. I never saw it.
I think that was I Am Number 4.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, damn, you fucked it up.
I'm number 4.
That's okay. You tried, just like this movie did, but also
Failed miserably.
but also just like this movie.
Just ate wet cement.
Tripped over your own feet out of the gate.
Yeah. Firestarter? More like Firestarter.
Yes. Well,
I don't like saying that about movies. But here we are.
But sometimes...
Here we are, folks.
Sometimes movies are bad.
Sometimes movies are a wet fart.
Yeah.
This one, I'm not feeling so hot about.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not fired up. That's for sure.
I'm a little fired up, with giggles, I think. That's the thing, there's offensively bad movies. This one, I don't think was offensively bad. Oh, sorry, we usually do like an intro and shit. I'm just like rocking right into it.
That's okay. We're talking about Firestarter.
Yeah, I probably picked that up.
The new one that just came out, not the 1984 one. This one was directed by Keith Thomas. This is, of course, based on the novel by Stephen King and stars Zac Efron and some other people.
Yes.
Written by the guy who wrote Halloween Kills.
Yeah, you told us that as the credits were rolling, and so many pieces clicked into place for me.
Yep.
Because I said at one point out loud during this movie, who wrote this?
Yeah. Deeply bothered.
Turns out it was somebody who wrote one of our least favorite movies from last year.
Yeah.
And he's back. Oh, yeah, Scott Teems. That's right. Okay.
Like it or not, he's returned.
And he's just teeming with bad writing ideas.
Well,
feels a little personal. But here we are.
My man just does not know how to write dialogue in any voice other than his own.
I mean, other than his own, is he an alien? Is that his voice? This movie's weird, man. Well, see, okay, part of it, too, is like, I think it's even more egregious in this film because he's writing off of Stephen King. I've always found Stephen King's dialogue to be really weird.
I don't mind Stephen King's dialogue. Like, I mean, he's obviously a sort of ideas monster in the same way that, like, Hideo Kojima is, where he doesn't really know how to rein himself in.
Well, we said as much during the movie, as I think I leaned over at one point and said, is this a Hideo Kojima production?
And, I mean, Stephen King really is, like... proto-American Kojima.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's just like, he doesn't have anybody to really rein him in, and he just throws a lot of ideas at the page. And, a lot of them work really well. But, I mean, also, it makes him kind of a messy writer. A writer that I like a lot. I've read a ton of his books, and I love Stephen King. I haven't read Firestarter, but, like, his shit is notably all over the place, especially... when he was like an alcoholic and a coke addict, which I think was the late 70s, early to mid 80s, which would have been when Firestarter, the book, was written.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stephen King is a real, and in some circumstances, as writers should be, he's a real mirror. Any era of Stephen King, whether it's like recent with like Outsiders or The Outsider, or with It, for instance, the book is largely built out of like media mythology of the time. He sees Rodin, he sees, like all these like current things, and the kids are talking about things that are current for the time.
Stephen King's always been a pop culture guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And his dialogue is just like overburdened with it at times for me, like in my preferences. When I was reading The Outsider, it was just every other line was, I saw this on Netflix. I prefer my Surface Pro 7, you know, like, and it's so regurgitative, and also
it's
like
all branded.
It's branded, and it's very Twittery. It's very Twitter brained esque. Like,
Well,
it's all
yeah.
like it's like really like this is coming from someone who's like still tries to consider himself progressive, but like it's very like outwardly, you know, it's looking for pats on the back. You know, it's projective.
Yeah.
Like he really projects like that whole like culture, and it's performative. Yeah,
right.
and like and I get that in his writing too. Like
Honestly,
especially in The Outsider.
Honestly, I don't mind it in his books too much, because like, while you're right, that is also just how people talk.
Sometimes, yeah.
When people have conversations, they're dropping pop culture things all the time because it's what's going on. Yep. So it can make his books feel dated. I think it's impossible to read a Stephen King book and not be able to tell exactly when it was written.
Sure.
Yep.
I thought it was really funny that in this movie they mentioned Netflix directly.
Well, see, that's what I mean.
In a moment,
it's like his writing does that too, and like that's where I get that vibe.
Well, it's especially funny because this movie released on Peacock.
Yes.
As well as theaters.
Okay.
So to drop in Netflix,
oh man, yeah, that is funny.
Directly.
Well, I mean, guaranteed when they were writing and making it, they didn't know where it was going to get distributed.
Damn, they're out here dropping this the same week they dropped the Master Chief sex scene. Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned
what
we're
a
not
time
dating
to be
what
a time to be that's regardless of when you recorded it, that is when the movie came out. But like what a time to be a Peacock subscriber, huh?
But wasn't that Paramount Plus?
Yeah, that's Paramount Plus. That's a different.
Oh, those are different things.
Yeah,
I think that proves a different point.
Paramount Plus used to.
There's
be
too goddamn many of these. Yeah, there's too many of these fucking things. It's just cable, but less convenient. I read someone say the other day, like.
This is a non sequitur, but I want to double back real quick because you mentioned Stephen King.
Yeah, I have more to say on that too. Yeah.
You mentioned Stephen King's kind of like performative, like Twitter sort of personality. I just think it's funny that you mentioned that, because I had to stop following him on Twitter because he was one of those Jeff Tiedrick style Trump reply guys.
Yeah.
Who every time Trump would tweet, Stephen King would like quote tweet him or reply to him and be like, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Mr. President." Sir.
It's like a small yapping dog at a certain point. Like I can't.
It's boomer Twitter brainworms.
Yeah, totally.
I'm convinced.
Totally. And you know what? My life has been better for it since I stopped following Stephen King on Twitter, because it means I can still enjoy his writing.
Well, that's the thing about these boomer sci-fi and horror writers. They get Twitter brainworms. Like William Gibson, classic cyberpunk writer.
Oh, don't tell me.
Has the same kind of Twitter brain at this point.
No.
Yeah. And it's just like, yes, the work itself is still great.
Yeah, totally.
Just separate yourself from their online
have
presence and you'll be a happier
Have you read
person.
Neuromancer? He was like the one to predict Twitter brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Oh my god, the irony is awful. I hate that.
The times come for us all.
God damn. Oh.
Being an old man screaming into an uncaring void is an inescapable fate. An out of touch old man screaming into an uncaring void.
This is incredible to be like the guy who wrote fucking Neuromancer and like it has been fucking neuromanced. Like, wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh well. Moving on.
Speaking of sucks, we should talk about the movie a little
that
bit.
is why we're here. That is true.
Do we have to?
Yes, I want to. I gotta say, as bad movies go, this one I found to be like pretty entertainingly like baffling and bad, at least.
At times,
yeah, it gets eye rolling for sure. But
at times, like one of my bigger, more serious problems with the movie is that it is guilty of like the greatest cardinal sin in filmmaking for me personally, which is that it's fucking boring. Like, I don't mind a bad movie if it's weird bad or fun bad or like what the fuck is going on bad, like how did this get made bad. The most terrible movies to sit through are ones that are just boring and largely competently made, like I think this film was, very incompetently written. And I don't think the Stephen King stuff is the problem in this movie. Like, we went off on Stephen King a little bit, but my problems with this movie aren't the story beats, it's the dialogue. It's entirely...
Here's my bit is like
screenwriting as a whole. Because the story is fucking paper thin.
Yeah.
Like, in the way it's structured, like, there's this villainous DSI organization,
Dick Suck International,
that's never fleshed out at
who
all.
Are they?
There's no motivation for them. There's no explanation. It's just, okay, there's evil organization.
Yeah, evil government agency that presumably did some experiments on some psychic teenagers or whatever.
I get what they were trying to do and failed at, but like, I guess what they were trying to do is like, by not showing us too much of the organization, they're doing the Illuminati thing with it, right? Like, they're trying to show us that they're even, that we don't know how big they are. But the problem is that when you don't give us like enough texture, our brains just fill in the generic.
And the worst part is they do try to flesh it out because they bring in the dad from that 70s show,
Kurtwood Smith.
As a character, minor character who likes emptying pixie sticks
on a windowsill for some reason. What the fuck was that supposed to be?
Was that ever explained?
No,
none of us figured that one out.
Any payoff? Yeah, Kurtwood Smith is in one scene where like his voice is in one, but he's only in one scene physically. They
cut back to it a second.
Okay,
time.
yeah, he's in one location, and over the course of the same scene, split in half, right? Okay,
he's the doctor who was in charge of these weird experiments that this agency was running. So, like, the new captain of Dick Suck International goes to see him in the nursing home, and like, that scene was fucking terrible as well, because like, I feel like that scene in particular really shows off how this screenwriter doesn't know how to write different characters in different voices, because like, you have these characters who theoretically should be very different characters. They're from different generations. Kurtwood Smith is like an elderly scientist who is feels guilty about his experiments, and then you've got the captain lady who's like a young sort of hotshot government ladder climber who is like overconfident and cocky and like wants to grab get the little girl and use her as a weapon or whatever. But they both have the same voice.
Yeah, I will say, what's his name again?
Kurtwood Smith.
He does a great job just chewing the scenery. It felt like
he's hamming it up a little.
He knew what kind of movie this was. He's one of the few people that really kind of hams it up. I wish more people would.
Oh yeah.
I think Zac Efron was too dumb to realize how corny and campy this movie was.
Yeah, he's trying to serious actor his way through this like as hard as he can.
Oh, no, you know what? I will give him that. He was putting in effort.
You can tell.
He's putting in effort. I respect him for that.
You can tell that he's trying, and I think if the script was better, his performance might even be good.
Yeah.
But the script is terrible. So is he, kind of.
Yeah, I've seen enough of that documentary.
His show. His Netflix show, speaking of talking about things on Netflix. the one where he, like, travels around the world with that,
whoa.
That, older,
lifestyle guy.
Lifestyle huckster. Yeah.
It's interesting because in this movie, his character claims to be a lifestyle guide.
You're right.
Yeah. I think that was his influence, I think.
Well, they have that really funny scene where he has like a weird office where it's just two chairs facing each other.
Yeah, in like an empty room in a strip mall. But he's got like these big, like, he's got like this tacky wallpaper that's like a forest, like behind the one woman.
I kind of liked that.
You know, I kind of dug it too at that point in the movie when I didn't quite know the tone of the movie yet. I also thought that was like kind of interesting.
I thought the scene was like really weirdly paced.
This scene was insane. Yeah. They were talking about within an hour we'll go through this session, and then the session lasts like a minute.
Yeah. So this woman comes in because he advertises that like in 3 sessions of just sitting there and talking, he can like make people quit smoking or whatever. And that's when it's revealed that he has some psychic powers. He can like telekinetically influence people.
Yeah. These are not the smokes you're looking for.
Right, exactly.
All he has to do is crack his neck violently.
Like a glow stick.
Yeah, like in every single time he does it. He does an anime neck pop.
He does it to activate his powers.
Yeah.
Which is
and then
really
he bleeds
silly.
from the eyes.
It just made me
he does
think about,
does an 11 from Stranger Things.
It just made me think about all those stories
I think it's pretty good for it, though.
of like people who take way too many psychedelics and then it like builds up in their spinal fluid or whatever. They can like crack their back and like activate a trip. Like his superpower reminded me of that.
Well, it's funny because once he does that, the girl's eyes dilate like she's tripping balls.
Yeah. Well, that's like the thing that they do throughout the movie is like when he psychically influences somebody or whatever, like their pupils widen. But this movie is so dark.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I noticed that.
Oh my God.
There's a sound effect every time like somebody's pupils dilate. It's kind of like a fleshy, like expanding sound. And I think they put it in because you can't actually see anybody's pupils dilating because the movie's too dark.
Dude.
So they have to put in a sound effect so you know.
What happened?
They tried to fix a lot in post in this movie. You can tell.
Yeah.
Like the contacts were another example of something I felt like were totally done in post to try to make sense of things.
Well, there's that one shot where like we see like one of the government agents guys like taking them out of like a box and putting them in his eyes. But yeah, other than that,
that's something like, you could totally get
after.
You know,
it's a one person.
You could get a pickup of that for sure.
Yeah.
The government agents wear magic contacts that prevent the psychicness from getting it.
But only sometimes.
I don't know how that works.
And not when it matters.
Not when it matters. I don't understand.
That's like, introduced in the same scene where like the main character, like she blows the front door off of this farmhouse like with a fucking fireball and walks outside, and his dad's like, you should run, and like when there's just like a dude is the threat, and he's like not even pointing the gun at that moment, and her dad is like, I told you about running, you should run right now, and she goes okay and leaves, and it's like, girl, you could have just like fucking done all those fireballs.
Dude, there's so much of that shit in this movie. Like I mean even right after that, when Zac Efron tries to use his power on the assassin, and literally all he does is like crack his neck, start bleeding from the eyes, and then fall over. Like he does nothing.
Oh my God, it's so funny. She runs up. It's so many pathetic things in one
it's
go.
like he kind of does something. Like we see that like the assassin is like looking at her. She's running across the field, but then like she disappears. So like Zac Efron like made him not see her.
But in the moment, it is so doofy.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
But my point is, in that scene, why does the assassin not just shoot Zac Efron? Because the story needs them to capture him and take him to Dick Suck International.
Yeah.
Like there's no, like, this assassin guy has already killed like Zac Efron's wife. His mission is just to get the girl. Like, she's the only one that he needs alive. why doesn't he just blow Zac Efron's brains out right there?
Maybe he's feeling guilt or something. I don't know, but like
it's the same thing.
so
Like
dumb.
why in that scene doesn't she just shoot a fireball at the scary assassin man?
But it's just like
because the story requires those characters to be other places later in the movie, so they can't have them die at those moments.
like it culminates in such a dumbass moment. You know, she blasts her with a fireball, and then her dad goes, you know, you should run, and she just kind of runs instead. And then the guy puts his gun down and walks forward, and then Zac Efron starts bleeding from the eyes, and there's this wonderful like low shot of Zac Efron like collapsing to his knees because he's an idiot, and like he couldn't manage, or he failed. But like the music doesn't really like sting in a way. There's no like soft violins to be like, oh my god, he failed. It's just kind of
like a him
it's kind of
sacrificing
pathetic,
himself
like the way he
moment,
kind of
yeah.
like falls over, and then like, but also in the same shot is like the old man going like, like trying to like crawl around, and like the other guy is just kind of like boringly standing there, and it's just like the saddest fucking thing. It's like, this isn't like
But then
sad. I'm not moved. I'm not
We'll
saddened by
definitely
this.
talk
I don't
more about
yeah.
the old guy.
And then, yeah,
'cause-
like, of course, you know, you do find out that Zac Efron was, you know, projecting a fake image to buy some time, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, cool, 2 minutes later, I guess the time has been bought, and that's that.
Well,
and then
and
all the contact guys show up, and it's just like one thing after another. It's like, wait, now these guys have cyberpunk eyeballs? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
What is this movie?
Well,
There's
and
nothing like that before that moment.
Also, to add to that whiplash is that when the Dick Suck International agents show up, the assassin, who is one of their sleeper agents who they've hired,
Reactivated.
who they have reactivated, who they have sent out after Zac Efron and the little girl. As soon as the agents show up, he puts his gun down, puts his hands up, and then they arrest him?
Yeah.
yeah.
What? He's their guy.
Like,
and literally the only
What was the rewrite?
explanation for that we get is when we see him taken back to like the evil base or whatever. The captain lady is just like, you left a trail of police corpses. You were anything but discreet. But literally all she told him was like, we need the girl alive.
Like, at all
Like
costs.
he is like, but then he has also like weirdly had a change of heart that is completely unmotivated by anything.
Because we
That
never get his
character
backstory.
Overall is so bizarre.
So confusing.
They introduce him in like almost sort of like an S&M sort of like dark dungeon where
Yeah, he's, like, hanging out in
there's
a
a
warehouse.
line of boots just lined up and
And he's
he has
shirtless
a-
and he's got a very metal back tattoo.
Yeah.
It's the Hanged Man.
Yeah.
yeah, and like EBM
Bro.
music is playing, like dark electronic, and it's just like,
John Carpenter is
and
playing.
then nothing. Well, no, it's not even John Carpenter. That's the one music needle drop they have, and it's
Yeah.
like Nitzer Ebb, and like it's so weird and
Yeah.
unnecessary.
It's like
because
he gets a phone call and puts it on speakerphone, and then it's just like this bitch is like, we're reactivating you. And he's like, no, I gave up that life. She's like, do you want it? But what about doing it for us though? And he's like, oh, okay.
And then the scene just kind of ends.
Yeah.
Like, the dialogue was like
he's
really
such-
like bland in that sequence.
He's such a confusing character.
What's his name? Wet Bird?
Rainbird. Yeah, he's Native American.
Okay, yeah. So his name was Rainbird. Yeah.
Rainbird, yeah.
I just kept thinking it was Wet Bird or something.
I mean, it basically is. And it's like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like, oh, he's hunting the Firestarter and he's Rainbird, you know.
yeah,
he's gonna,
water, fire.
yeah, but he doesn't do anything. Like, literally, the only scene we have of him being like a scary assassin, quote unquote, is when he shows up at their house, like while Zac Efron and the girl are out of the house, and he kills the mom. But I don't even feel like the movie does a very good job of like making him scary. He's just like kind of a guy. But not just like kind of a guy in the same way that like Anton Chigurh is just kind of a guy.
No.
You know, but
He's
is
just
like
a dude,
but
yeah.
is like terrifying. No, he's just like he also has powers kind of, but he never really uses like
What were his powers?
he's telepathic, so he like reads the mom's mind to learn to learn that Zac Efron and the daughter are getting ice cream, and then he uses his powers one other time later in the movie to
draw the girls to the place.
Yeah, to project an image of the Dick Suck International headquarters into the girl's brain, so she knows how to find. I don't understand how how she finds it, because literally she sees, like, he projects an image of the building, not where it is, but it's just an image of what the building looks like.
Into the middle of the woods.
And then after that she leaves the woods and goes and steals a kid's bike and is like, which way to the coast? And they point in a direction, and then it just cuts, and she's outside the building.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like, and once again, that character, those are the only 2 times he quote-unquote meaningfully uses his powers in the entire fucking movie, and why is he on her side all of a sudden? Like,
I'm so baffled.
It's not like he, like, saw her exhibiting like a tremendous amount of courage or something that like changed his mind, like, oh, she's a fighter just like me or whatever. It was literally like he saw her running across a field and then all of a sudden was like, you know what? No, she is my sister. She is my mother.
What's so baffling is
he says those lines.
They try to explain it when he's getting interrogated from the DSI lady. He's like, if you saw her power, you'd understand too.
He literally just saw her blow the door off of a farmhouse with a fireball. That's all.
And then run away.
He wasn't moved then. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess earlier when they escape him the first time, she kind of knocks him against the wall.
But then he keeps hunting her.
Yeah, right, exactly. And kills a bunch of people along the way.
Yeah.
Like, his change of heart is so confusing. It feels like there's something missing.
Yeah.
Like, and then, like, when he's...
It's like, where's the rewrite?
When he's describing it, it felt... Maybe this is going too far, but it felt like borderline racist Native American shamanism kind of thing.
Yes.
That, like... I have seen her spirit, and she is my sister and my mother. What are you talking? What is this? It doesn't make any sense in the context of the film.
See, apparently that character was originally Native American in the book.
I'm sure he was.
And
Stephen King loves to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in the 80s movie, they kind of changed it, so it was played by George C. Scott and not a Native American.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, I want to see that. I need to see that movie now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like, if you're only using a minority character to be a stereotype, then maybe it's okay to rewrite it as, you know, a white guy and not a stereotype.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the exceptions to, you know, inclusivity, where, like, if you're gonna make a racist character, maybe rewrite it to not be a racist character.
Stay away from, like, the mysticism that, like, drives that kind of thing into otherism.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness to the film, that part is the only part of the movie where I felt that was in that interrogation scene. Like, otherwise, I think, yeah, he's just a blandly written character whose motivations don't make much sense. But then,
just write good.
But then, like, yeah, so much of this movie comes down to, but just write good, please.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure.
Even the shamanism stuff aside, it's like, whatever. Like, at least can it be good? That's all I'm asking. Yeah.
Can it be good? No, it can't.
So
and see, here's the thing too. I bet the book is good. I have not read it. I've read a lot of Stephen King. I bet the book is good. I bet he pulls it off. It was coked up Stephen King. That's some of the most fun Stephen King.
So I was thinking about it, and I think one thing that differentiates us is that, in our perspective of Stephen King, is that you read Stephen King.
Yes.
You've read most of your Stephen King, and I've read a few Stephen King myself, but most of the Stephen King I've taken, especially lately, has been via audiobook. And I think that Stephen King's dialogue is a lot easier to take in if you are projecting that voice yourself when you're reading it. And I think that might
it's hard to act.
I think when you start saying some of that stuff out loud,
sure.
I think that that's where the problem comes in.
I can totally see that, actually.
Yeah, and I think that might be part of it because like I've a lot of the Stephen King I've taken in, especially over the podcast and stuff, has been books on tape while I've been painting and doing work and whatnot. So I bet that's it. I bet there's something to that. I hadn't thought about it that way before, but
that could be.
Yeah, because it's like, and the thing is like the guys who I've listened to narrate those books do a great job. Like they're doing their best, but there's just, I don't know, there's something about hearing some of that stuff out loud when it's like,
sure.
Their characters are getting performative and whatnot, where it's just like, this is not how people talk.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird. But I will say that even in those circumstances, it is nowhere near as bad as this film. I think this film is, when you take something like that is pretty well written, but still like weird, like in its presentation, and then you just remove the good writing.
Well, see, here's the thing: we've talked about before why Stephen King is so hard to adapt, and I think that is a big part of it. It's one of many big parts of it. I think another big part is that like Stephen King's shit relies heavily on internal monologue. His characters are constantly like internally monologuing, and obviously on the screen you're not able to do that.
Yeah.
And it therefore doesn't translate well. There's a handful of good Stephen King adaptations,
sure,
but a lot of them are kind of dog shit.
Especially lately.
There's a lot of bad Stephen King adaptations. Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been bad ones with the good ones. There have been, a handful of good Stephen King adaptations. I think
TV series.
I think The Outsider, the HBO show, is like maybe the best Stephen King adaptation ever. They know the perfect.
Yeah. Well, they do the same thing that The Shining did.
But The Shining is an incredible film, but it's a bad adaptation of the book.
Fair.
But what makes the film good, I think, is the same thing that makes The Outsider show good, and that's that they strip away a lot of the anime logic.
Is that the people who are making it know how to cut out some of the like less translatable Stephen King bullshit?
The anime. They cut out the anime shit.
I've read The Shining, and
I love anime,
Kubrick's Shining
doesn't translate.
Very, very different from the book. Like it's a pretty big departure, which I think is why Stephen King, notoriously hated it when it came out.
No.
He's come around on it in recent years, or at least he says he has.
Kind of, and then he kind of made Doctor Sleep, which is essentially an attempt to rewrite it to his vision.
I like the Doctor Sleep book, and I still like the movie. Its problems aside, but. Then you get movies like this,
or Pet Cemetery, This movie felt kind of like the recent Pet Cemetery remake, in that like they just completely missed the mark. And they're trying to get at the core concepts of young girl can set things on fire, and kind of completely disregard any other part of the story, and it just feels so hollow that it's not engaging.
There's no kind of like character depth to any of the characters in this movie. Like I said, I haven't read the book and I haven't seen the 84 film, but I think pretty obviously like the whole like young girl coming into her powers thing is like a not so subtle metaphor for like puberty and coming of age.
I mean, Carrie, right?
But right, exactly. Carrie, these are the same thing, and that's another thing about Stephen King is he tells the same story over and over again. But this movie has none of that. Like I feel like this is a movie that
sprinkles.
I mean, it's mentioned
at the very beginning.
At the very beginning, when like Zac Efron and his wife are talking, and like they're talking about how she like her powers are resurging again, and Zac Efron's like she hasn't hit puberty yet, has she? And his wife's like, no, not yet.
Well,
and it's
like, also
earlier,
like she's talking to her dad, and I think this is the interesting I think it almost is commentary in reverse, where she says like, or she says, yeah, I feel weird. And he's like, oh, should I get your mom to talk to you about that?
Yeah, she says
And
there's something going on with
and he's
my
like,
body.
no, it's not
and he's
that.
like, oh, we gotta go talk to your mom. And he's like, no, not that, Dad. The bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's like that is implied. But this is a movie. This is a story that should quintessentially be a coming of age story, right? Like Stand By Me, another Stephen King. And Stephen King does coming of age stories over and over and over again. It is a coming of age story.
What he really needs to write right now is a coming of old age story.
But this movie is
Not to be elderphobic or whatever the term is. There's the term for it. I forget.
ageist.
Yeah, that's it.
You're ageist.
Kind of like elderphobic, though. It's funnier.
Elden phobic.
Oh,
I'm
no.
scared of Elden Ring.
I'm definitely
No,
not
that's
that.
not true.
Man.
Yeah.
The film should be a coming of age story and isn't, because none of the characters have enough emotional development for them to come of age.
Well,
You know?
it almost has the same problem that Halloween Kills has, where it's and then.
Yeah.
You know, it's not taking characters they set up. For example, early in the movie, they set up like a bully character that bullies the little girl.
The redhead.
And that's
Totally forgotten about.
completely abandoned. Well, and we come back to kids later, but it's not the same kid.
Yeah.
No,
even.
I mean it's different kids, and they kind of, but it's also
They also
all,
call her weird the
it's
same
all
way
like
he
generic bullying. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're a weirdo, you're a freak, when like outwardly she's just like a completely like normal child. Like I know like kids bullying like doesn't necessarily have the strongest logic behind it, but in
What is
these
it with
kinds
kids
of
on bicycles in Stephen King?
my man loves a bicycle.
He loves kids on bikes.
He loves the ye old days of riding around on bikes with your friends
Yeah.
before the internet and President
like, even-
and President Trump.
Yeah, because it ends with him like riding around with a boner on his bike.
Yeah, that's true. It does. Yeah, exactly. That's how he brings his wife's mind back from
His bike boner.
the far-flung realm of cosmic horror where Pennywise sent it. He puts her on a bike and then gets a boner. Stephen King is so funny, man. He's so funny. It's like when you put it that simply, it sounds like
Once you say it out loud,
It's like how can this
say it out loud.
how can this be good? But it is, you know, it is like his shit is good.
It's so funny to me. Like of the three of us, I think T's like you watch the least anime. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I get my anime logic from different sources.
Yeah.
From Stephen King
fair.
and professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Both anime. Respectfully.
Yeah. Can we talk about the opening scene?
Yes, we absolutely
Please.
have to mention this.
Yeah. I mean,
Because I genuinely cannot remember the last time I laughed that hard in a theatrical film.
holy shit, dude.
And I think it was unintentional too.
It was 100% unintentional.
I had just
it was
about-
not supposed to be funny.
I had just about finished laughing over it, and then T to the right of his show was like, like it's just you were racked with it, man. It was so funny.
I missed the entire transition into the next scene because I was laughing too hard. And what I was laughing at is the very beginning of the film. The opening scene is Zac Efron and his wife with their newborn baby. They put her down for a nap in her crib or whatever, and she sets her little mobile whatever hanging over her crib on fire.
Immobile.
Mobile. And Zac Efron runs
Mobile, I believe. That's how it's pronounced.
Zac Efron runs into the room, and the first funny thing that happens is he like swats the like burning mobile whatever into the crib, like on top of the baby, pretty much.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny first off the bat.
Yeah.
Like a confused cat.
Yeah, but then he picks the baby up and is like holding it out in front of him, and it's sort of like an over the shoulder shot of the baby looking at Zac Efron. He's like holding her at arm's length, and then without warning, the baby bursts into flames, and then it hard cuts. Yeah. And I laughed so fucking hard. It was so unexpected.
A combustion baby.
So out of the blue.
Yeah. It's like this movie, beat one. We're setting a baby on fire.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
It's one of those things that, like, describing it, I know it doesn't sound as funny as I found it, but it's just...
It's the way it's cut.
It's the way it's cut, and it just like it comes so out of the blue, like so unexpectedly. And you know, honestly, like that, like for the first 15 minutes of the film, like won me over because it set a tone that I expected the rest of the film to have, which it then did not. So it's like really false advertising.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
The best moment of the film is 2 minutes in.
Yeah, it's setting the tone.
You can skip the rest.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't really set the tone. So, here's what I'll say for the film. This is not praise. I think you guys are largely right about having a lot of boring shots and sequences.
God, it's so boring.
You know, like fortunately, like I can just let my mind wander or whatever else, or just kind of, like it's whatever for me. But the one way, like I think I've kind of been broken a little bit is that my most recent comparison for bad movies is Morbius. And this movie, I will again. This is not praise. I will say it was a hell of a lot more engaging than Morbius.
It's better than Morbius. Well, okay,
but that is the lowest comparative. Like Morbius was fucking boring.
It's better. It's better than
not watch Morbius again.
It's better than Morbius. It's more boring than Morbius.
You think?
I do think so.
I'm gonna make a bold statement. I think this movie is more incompetently written than Morbius.
Yeah.
Whoa.
In that Morbius at least has some of the veneer of Marvel boardroom, working on the writing somewhat and helping
storytelling by committee.
Exactly. So it's boring and generic slop, but there's a semblance somewhat there.
I think it makes it worse for me. Also, like Jared Leto was like so flat in that film, but here at least like Zac Efron was trying.
Well, finish your thought, Ben.
Well, in Morbius, it didn't have quite the and then syndrome that this movie does, and that sort of incompetence of screenwriting in terms of narratively building out characters is such a glaring indication that this is bad screenwriting.
See, it's certainly bad screenwriting, and so is Morbius. Let's not
the worst.
Let's not get it twisted. Here's where I think the difference lies for me. I think that this film has worse dialogue than Morbius.
It was funnier dialogue.
It has worse dialogue than Morbius. In Morbius, like, the dialogue's not good, but it's relatively inoffensive. Where in this movie, it's just like every scene, it's like people don't talk like this. Why is this happening? But
I found that engaging, at least.
The difference, and I do think this movie's better than Morbius. The difference is that because this film has very little in terms of plot, it is much less convoluted than Morbius.
Yes, I will give you that.
In terms of plot points and beat-to-beat storytelling, is way messier and more all over the place than this movie is. It's much
especially
less,
the tail end.
It's much less comprehensible. But because there's nothing going on at any point in this movie, that makes it just unbelievably boring, and the terrible dialogue just compounds on top of that. I don't think the margin between this and Morbius is huge.
No, not at all.
But I do think I would rather sit down and watch this movie again than
it's got a flaming
Prometheus.
baby in it. I mean, come on.
Just give me the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, that's all.
But
Is it
what I
good?
saw on the TV? See, this is the thing is, I want to show this movie to friends. I have,
It's on Peacock.
yeah,
Why did she set the cat on fire?
it
because
scratched
it
her.
scratched
she
her.
she reacted
Yeah,
to it.
She
but,
really
like,
acted.
Did we really need a scene
I-
of her just charring a cat?
I was not a big fan of that scene.
I wasn't a big fan of that scene either.
Like, I'll probably be removing at least half a star for that scene alone.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that was a beautiful orange tabby cat, and like, I didn't want to see it.
generally I don't like
gratuitous.
when they kill animals
Yeah.
in horror movies. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, this movie was particularly gratuitous because
Like, you can char people all day, man. That's
she
fine.
chars the
movie.
cat, but like it's still alive, and like I guess like
Fuck you. No one wants to see that.
Narratively, that does have purpose because it's when Zac Efron teaches her. It's like you fucked up. You did this. The animal is in pain. You have to put it out of its misery. This is the cost. That's what he says. This is the cost. You have to, like, now you have to finish it. And she does that again later with the agent in the parking garage, which they try to set up, like, some sort of emotional tie for us, the audience, because, like, when he's getting into the car, he's, like, talking on the phone with presumably his wife, being like, I'm sorry the nausea was bad today, babe. At least you're almost done with the first trimester,
I
right?
rolled my eyes so fucking hard when he said that.
At the end of the tunnel, so he could be like, oh, this guy's got a family. He's got a wife. He's got a baby on the way. And then, he
Just
tries
like when
to,
Zac Efron killed those guys, and
Yep.
he says that.
He says, yep,
And
they
it's so
probably
weird that he
have
says that.
wives and kids, and it's like, I'll come back to that, but like then the agent tries to pull a gun on the little girl,
Which she makes no sense because earlier in that scene, he indicates he knows who she is and, assumedly,
knows what she's capable of.
So
yeah.
why would you?
And she
Because script needs him to be burned, and they didn't think that through.
Exactly. She
Yep.
says to him, like, I don't
Dumb.
want to, she says, I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
hurt you, mister.
So
Just
dumb.
tell me, like, is my dad in this building? And then he tries to pull a gun on her. She shoots a fireball at him, like, burns him horribly, but he's still alive. And then she repeats the line that Zac Efron feeds her when she burns the cat, is like, he's in pain. This is the cost. You have to put him out of his misery. So she torches him. And it's like, but why though? But why?
What y'all
because
think
the
of-
film needs it to happen.
What
but
you
why?
think of the burned effect on him?
I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty
It
good.
reminded me of Gus Fring, kind of.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. No, I thought it looked good. Like there and we can talk about this too. There are a handful of effects in this film that I think are pretty well handled, all things considered.
Yes.
There's
Big
also
old asterisk on that, though.
there's also a lot of like kind of underwhelming CG, like when
The
she like shoots
fire
the
looks
fire,
bad,
like
yo.
when she blasts the
Yeah.
fire. Well,
like those effects where like her hair is like blowing, and there's like all like the fake fire around her. Like it looks
yeah, that's
bad.
CG and it looks
it's
bad.
kinda bad, yeah.
But like when she's trying to escape,
I'd
from
almost prefer bad compositing to like totally CG fire.
when she's trying to escape from the facility later, and like the quote unquote containment team comes in, the guys in like the full fireproof suits. And like she's like blasting them with fire, and like it's not working because they're insulated from it. Like that was not CG. That was obvious. They got a room with a handful of guys in fully fireproof suits and just sprayed them with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
And it's fucking dope.
Yeah.
Like that effect was fucking tight. I agree. Like when she does the fireballs or whatever, and like you see sort of like the halo of fire around her, like it's cheap CG, it doesn't look great, but like the spraying those dudes in the fireproof suits with just like a flamethrower was a
rad.
it was a cool effect.
Yeah.
And I thought the prosthetics on the dude that she burns up looked
Well, and here's the thing:
good.
the prosthetics on the cat technically looked very good too. That's also my problem with them. I really didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
Like I know this is a horror movie podcast. I know it's like our deal or whatever, but like I'm not above like hating it when you kill the dog or the cat in a movie.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Like
I've never
fuck you,
enjoyed
don't do that.
I've
like
never enjoyed that.
come on, like I'm here. Like your average audience member, like, and I'm with this. Like your average audience member is just like come off of a long day of work. I want to watch a horror movie and have fun, and I just don't want to see like a beautiful orange tabby cat get burned alive. Thank you, no.
Yeah, I'm
like,
with you.
It's okay. Like I don't know. Like I also love The Thing, and The Thing does have like a whole sequence of like melting dogs that fucking rolls.
Which is hard to watch, but like, man, it's so well done.
But like it's puppetry, like, and like I know that the cat is too. I don't know. I don't know if now's the time to deep dive on that, but I guess I don't know. I just kind of I'm contradicting myself openly, but what is it? Why did this bother me? But like in The Thing, I just think it's rad.
Because it's purposeless in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know, you can just cut it out and it would be no change.
Right. By definition, gratuitous. It's gratuitous. Yeah, it is. It's not necessary. And like, if the cat dying had served better purpose.
In The Thing, it serves purpose because
it's just like gonna scratches her a little bit, and she like just like
yeah.
You're right. That's what it is.
Because
Thank you.
in The Thing comes to the camp disguised as the dog, right? Yep. So they put it in with the other dogs, and it's when it kills all the dogs, there's like the reveal of what it is.
Yeah,
like,
and it's the audience we learn that lesson.
It's not fun to watch those beautiful husky dogs die, but like it is the purpose it serves is because it needs to be horrifying. This is our first view of this like utterly alien entity that is about to be loosed upon the base for the rest of the film. You know. Whereas,
it's just unnecessary in this movie and gratuitous. I want to go back.
It's also a bad movie, so I'm harsher on it because if it was a good movie, then it would be like, that scene was hard to watch, but it's like the movie's good. It's like it serves a purpose. And this, it's like, no, the movie sucks. The writing's bad,
and I get to watch a beautiful tabby get burned.
And I also have to watch a kitty cat get burned.
That's the thing. Like with a lot of the good effects in this movie, they're undercut by shitty writing. Like the flame suit guys. Like that was a
someone
cool
worked
sequence.
really hard on that.
And then one of them just takes off his helmet. Yeah, and it's just some random guy that I guess we're supposed to recognize.
I don't think so.
But
I don't think
it
we
felt
ever
like
introduced that
it
character.
It was done in a way where it feels like it's supposed to be a reveal. It feels like a
reveal, yeah. And
because there's no reason for him to take it off knowing her powers.
Yeah, why would he? It's the only thing protecting him.
Yeah.
And then that, again, which is already undercutting one thing, is undercut again by Rainbird showing up behind them and shooting all of them. Mm-hmm. Because whatever fire can't accomplish, you can accomplish with a gun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all...
Too bad she's not Gunstarter, huh?
Gunstarter.
Water starter.
Why is that so funny? That's so stupid. I wanna go back to something that I left a footnote on a few minutes ago, which is like the sort of purposelessness of all of this shit, because like Zac Efron like is trying to teach her
empathy.
He's trying to teach her empathy, and is telling her like, I'm trying to teach you to control this power so you don't hurt others. Like that's the hard lesson with the cat, right? Is that she doesn't want to kill things, and then she has the lesson again with the guy in the car. She doesn't want to kill him. She's like, oh, now I have to put him out of his misery. He's in pain. It's just like with the cat. And then when she goes in to the base and meet Zac Efron, and the captain lady gets to have her boring, shitty monologue, then Zac Efron does what he says he doesn't want to do and uses his psychic power to basically like set her off like a bomb, and like he incepts the idea. It's like, you gotta burn it all down, and so she just like goes crazy and just like kills everybody. It's like, what is the message of this? Like, that's so like, obviously the bad guys have to die and we have to burn it down, but like her dad forcefully like setting her off like a bomb, like
especially when like there was previous dialogue between like Zac Efron and the mom where like there's an exchange where Zac Efron doesn't want to ever use it on like push thing on her.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he doesn't know if it's gonna like fuck up her brain.
Right.
Like he doesn't know if like he's like gonna like harm her or anything else like that.
And of course that's Chekhov's telepathy. Of course, because he says it, we know that at some point in the movie he's gonna be forced to use it on her. But the reasoning for that, it just does like ultimately it feels so nihilistic to me.
Yeah.
It's like what is the movie trying to say with that?
Yeah, well, and I want to go back to that sequence where he says, I don't want to, what if it breaks her brain? There's almost an implication there that he doesn't actually know what this does long term to anyone he uses it on.
That's what I mean.
It's not even an
an
implication. He says it out loud.
Yeah, so like going and like helping people break smoking habits, he's just giving them
that I like that's
the process.
They don't do a great job of breaking it down, but it's that whole idea of like he's willing to do anything for her. But here's right, because like later on too, he bribes the pickup truck guy with a $1 bill instead of 100, like trying to do that.
That's edited badly. It looks
terribly.
It looks like a continuity error.
It does.
It looks like a continuity error, but it is supposed to be like he's handing him a $1 bill, but using his psychic power to make him think that it's a $100 bill.
But it's only a one shot where it's 100, and like it's
it's in every shot it's 100. It's only in one.
That's what I mean.
Shot.
Sorry, it's the one. It's only one shot where it's a $1 bill.
One, and it's when it's over Zac Efron's shoulder and he's handing it to the guy, so it's not like the focal point of the shot. So it looks like a continuity error. It looks like in all the other shots he's holding 100, and in that shot he's holding a 1.
But my point being that like he does it there, and he's like willing to fuck this guy over a little bit, who could be a nice guy and who kind of is, like, just to help his daughter. Again, he's willing to do anything. He kills those guys who kidnapped her when she was a baby.
In the flashback,
and he even mentions, they could have had families or whatever. Like, we see that, like, on several occasions, like, he's willing to, like, harm other people to protect his kid. Not uncommon narrative in these sort of, like, parent horror movies. The thing is that to then use that thing on her, which could cause long-term damage, that could do whatever, like they said in the movie, like you brought up, Ben,
to turn
is
her,
a weird break in that.
To do exactly what Dick Suck International wants, to turn her into a weapon, which she is then going to have to live with the implications with. Yeah. Like, live with the memory of what she's done. Like, yeah, these are all, quote unquote, the evil, bad people, but he does exactly what he says he never wants to do for a reason that doesn't feel just. I mean, I guess it's to save her, but like, I don't know. I do want to circle back though to like his quote unquote job of being like a life coach or whatever. I will say, though it's underdeveloped, I don't mind that necessarily. I see what they're getting at. Like, the whole point is that they've been on the run. They make a point that they don't have cell phones or use Wi-Fi because people can track it. So he's doing this. He's fucking with people's brains because it's the only way that he can make money. He tells the woman in that session that he only takes cash. So that's why when he says to his wife, it's like, we don't know what this does to people's brains when I do it, so I don't want to do it to her. So like the implication is like he's forced to do this because they have no other source of income.
Man,
I think that's
capitalism is a motherfucker.
Yeah,
huh?
I think that's fine. I think it's extremely underdeveloped, but it still doesn't make his decision to use it on the daughter at the end any more justified. I think.
No,
I think
it's even less just.
I think from a storytelling perspective, the obvious, if cliche, answer is to have something happen where Captain Dick Suck International kills Zac Efron. The girl becomes enraged. She sets herself off like a bomb because the powers are triggered by her emotional state. We've seen that throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah.
That's all that's needed. But for Zac Efron to turn his daughter into a bomb, like against her will, what is the film trying to say with that? There are a couple of times in the movie where it feels like it's kind of trying to say that he's like a bad dad, that like he doesn't necessarily know what's best for her, but that is also so underdeveloped that like that doesn't feel good either. Like if that is what they're trying to say, then they should have leaned harder into that.
Well, and they really should have developed why the DSI is so insidious more too, because like it really doesn't feel like that is justified, you know? Like they're trying to turn her into a weapon, sure, but like they don't really feel like evil in the movie.
The film doesn't make them feel evil enough. Like I'm willing to believe that they're evil because they're a shady government organization who are all evil already. It's inherent. It comes with the territory.
Sure.
But I think from a storytelling perspective, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like, we never see them be outwardly evil other than that they send this assassin after this family.
Yeah, and we get like, I feel like they try to develop that with the opening credits, like the weird like
experiment
interviews with the two parents, and they have like weird blurry footage. At one point, one dude like cuts his eyes out.
Yeah, they do that over the opening credits where like
aesthetic.
And you know I thought that was pretty well done.
The aesthetic was cool.
I didn't think the eyes thing made any sense.
Yeah, but it was cool.
Well, I mean, the idea is that they've been experimenting on all of these people who all have like different psychic powers. So who fucking knows what that was supposed to be? You know, the mother is telekinetic. She can fling things around. You know, and the daughter inherits both her parents' powers as well as the Firestarter powers, so she can make people do things and then also fling shit around.
Anime.
Also, she can unlock all card doors telepathically somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that has to do with the telekinesis or whatever. But I mean, yeah, it's like she's all powerful. Like
It's just random rules. It's like whatever they want her to do, she can suddenly.
You know what?
do.
Yeah, it's a little.
No training or practice.
Honestly, it's almost unfair for me to say anime because usually anime still has anime logic, but like this is almost devoid of logic.
You know what it is? The character of the little girl is a MacGuffin.
She's a walking MacGuffin.
She's a walking MacGuffin.
Yeah.
She's important because the film needs her to be, but what she actually is unimportant.
You know, and it's dumb and it's a bummer because the idea is really cool. I was always a really big like X-Men kid. I always loved that whole idea of like the mutants as being like a metaphor for like being queer and like all the other stuff like that. I always thought that was really fun, and they're just a little bit more like cool and punk than some of the other superheroes and stuff. And that idea of like being on the run for having your powers, you know, was always really cool to me. I always thought that was super neat. The thing I was like about Spider-Man too, you know, he's being chased after. But like with the mutants and stuff, it was always cool because it was like, oh, it's this thing, you just have it. You didn't fall in a vat. You just have these. Yeah, you're born with it.
It's a mutation.
It's a mutation. Yeah. You were born brain fucked, or however this however this movie said it.
Brain fucked since birth.
Yeah, that is such a wow. What a horrible line. But my point is that like, this is basically an X-Men movie, right?
Yeah, basically.
Sure.
But almost all of the X-Men arcs I have read have been better written than this. Like, yeah, like, of course. It's just again, wild to me.
I believe the source material is probably much better than this movie is.
There's a bit in like one issue of Ultimate X-Men where a guy like working for Magneto reveals that like, or it's revealed that this guy can just like detonate himself. Like that's his ability. He can just fucking explode. And I always thought that was fucking rad. And like Magneto, of course, like uses him for like, you know, like anti-mutant terrorism, you know, stuff. And like, so it's like he's using it for like the wrong way to like, you know, try and reach out to the public to try and let them know he's using it for terrorism instead, where Xavier is trying to have a school. And I thought it was like such a perfect example for like what Magneto was trying to do and like how they were polarized on that front. The point is that like this film basically takes that same idea for that character and says like, yo, like I think Red from that 70s show basically says like at one point like she could become a nuke. Like she could just be like a walking thermonuclear device. And I always thought like
Terminator.
Yeah. And I always thought that like it's sort of a one-off in Ultimate X-Men, but like that character was like so fascinating and compelling. And he's used well, but like we don't get like too much of his personal story. And I always thought that like there was a lot to that idea. And so like conceptually there's something really neat here. Like, yeah, like she could just detonate, you know, at any time. And it's as much of a story about anger management, you know, as it is about the rest. You won't like me when I'm hungry, to quote Morbius. And I think
Fucking hell, I forgot about that.
I haven't been allowed to forget Morbius. Sorry to take another tangent, but I haven't been allowed to forget Morbius because in my like whole work group, I'm like I've now become the one guy who's seen Morbius thanks to y'all in this fucking podcast. So I get to be like the Morbius shaman.
I mean,
who has like all the information about this dumb movie that sucks.
I haven't forgotten Morbius either, but I did forget that you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry.
Yeah. So like, yeah, thanks to the podcast now, like I'm the guy at work. I'm the Morbius guy at work. Because anytime Morbius comes up, people's like, Cleveland, what's your response to this? You've seen Morbius.
You're a doctor.
You're enjoying the summer of Morbius, right? I'm like, I sure am, boys. I sure am.
You're Dr. Michael Morbius, Medical Dracula.
I am Dr. Michael Morbius, Medical Dracula. That is correct.
Right.
What was the tangent I left off of there?
I don't know. Something about X-Men.
Yeah, way cooler. Way. Yeah, man, it's just like you might, if you're gonna do this, you might as well put them in like cool leather suits. And you know, have the rest of it. Like, where's Cyclops?
Make them like if you're not gonna go full camp, make them actually interesting characters that have, you know, an arc or development or are not just all the same characters.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Is we're saying interesting in two different ways, right? I'm saying like visually interesting, and you're saying written.
Yeah,
and I just either one. But here, you don't get either, right? They don't look visually cool, and they're not written well either.
The story's been done a billion times, like. Like Stranger Things has been doing this exact same kind of arc.
Yep. That's why I said. That's why my intro name was I'm number 4 or whatever, right? It's like there's a billion of these. I think I don't know. I haven't really seen all of I Am Number 4.
You keep making references to a movie you haven't seen.
Well, I saw like part of it at a friend's house once. I think it's one of these.
I saw the trailer for it. Okay.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it when it was in theater.
I saw bits. I didn't see the whole.
But yeah, like this is exactly like Stranger Things in that like it's, you know, girl discovering powers and on the run from. And I mean,
Stranger Things has always been a Stephen King ripoff.
Sure.
Yeah, kids on bikes.
But it shows that, like, even a little bit more development goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, 11 is a really well-written character. Like, her whole dynamic with Hopper and the rest is great.
Look, maybe the 1984 Firestarter movie starring a young Drew Barrymore is also good. I have not seen it.
Starring Drew Barrymore.
Sure. But one thing I can say definitively is that this one... not good.
Yeah, sometimes less is Barrymore.
Well, let's talk about John Carpenter.
Yes,
thank you. The best thing about this movie.
John Carpenter does have a connection to the first Firestarter movie. He was set to direct it, but then The Thing came out and it fucking flopped in the theaters.
Classic,
and they were like, you know that movie you were going to direct? You're fired. So he didn't do the original Firestarter, and that's probably why no one remembers the original Firestarter.
More like Fire Non-Starter, am I right?
Oh.
More like you're fired, John Carpenter starter.
Yeah, well, they got Carpenter to do the soundtrack for this.
Him and his son.
You know,
yeah.
considering how much of the team, Scott Teams, was involved.
The Scott
TEMS.
in, you know, the John Carpenter adjacent Halloween Kills, it kind of makes sense, but not even a John Carpenter score can save this movie.
No, I thought the score was very good. I mean,
It was
it's
awesome.
Way
cooler than what was happening on screen.
It's very classically John Carpenter, but it's used relentlessly. It's just
a crutch.
it totally is. Like the movie, it's like the movie almost knows how fucking boring it is, and it's like, we are never going to stop playing this John Carpenter score for even 1 second, because if we do, you might literally fall asleep.
Yeah.
And they were right,
dude.
Because the John Carpenter score is like the one thing that kept me awake through this fucking boring ass movie. I was like, oh my god, when is this gonna fucking end? But every time
I fell asleep a little during like the lab destruction scene at the end.
Every time I started to like get unbearably bored, I was like, at least this music is pretty cool. John Carpenter's good. John Carpenter
is
rules.
good, yeah.
Yeah, the score's good.
Yeah.
It's by far the most exciting thing about the film, and when your music is the most exciting thing about your film, you know you fucked up somewhere.
Yep.
But you know what? John Carpenter, I know for a fact, my man does not give a shit. All he wants to do is watch basketball and play Assassin's Creed and make music.
Dude,
and
nothing but
king.
respect.
Nothing but
fucking
respect.
king.
A true king.
Smoking big doinks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And playing
And
fucking Metal Gear Solid.
Bless him.
He got a little bag off of this movie. Good.
Yep.
John Carpenter got a little bag for doing what John Carpenter does on the synths. And that is the best thing to come out of this movie, is that John Carpenter made some money for doing the soundtrack of this movie.
Yeah. Well, I
truly-
remember them putting out, John Carpenter had an interview about people remaking his work, and he basically was like, I don't care as long as the paycheck is put out in my name.
Yeah, I think the quote is something along the lines of, every time somebody comes to me and says they want to do a remake of one of my films, I just hold out my hand and they put a check into my hand. They hand me a check.
Awesome.
And it's like, yeah, dude, I have so much fucking respect for John Carpenter. It's like, he just reached a certain age. He's like, I'm too old for this shit. All I want to do is noodle around on my synths, watch basketball, get high, and play video games. And like, that's how he's spending his golden years, and like, he has fucking earned it.
Yeah, man.
Earned it. And
king.
every time something like this comes along, where he makes some music for a movie, or he gets some money for a shitty film like Halloween Kills, and like, man, he's fucking winning.
Well, that's the thing. Like, he's become a rock star too. Like,
Yeah,
he
totally.
tours around
He tours
with his
and plays
son,
music. Yeah, absolutely.
And he's like super into it, and people fucking love it, and like, nothing but respect for the man.
John Carpenter might be the coolest living director.
Oh yeah.
There are
yeah.
a lot of like great filmmakers who I love and have a lot of respect for, and I think are cool. But John Carpenter, I think, is the coolest living director.
He figured it out, man.
He figured it the fuck out. He made like a pretty significant number of just like absolute fucking bangers, then made some shitty horror films in his later years, and was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm out of here.
Yeah, peaced out.
Speaking of peacing out, are y'all ready to rate this thing?
Yes, sir.
Man, it's not the worst movie I've seen this year. It's not. Like, it's competently made on a technical perspective for a large part. The writing's fucking terrible. It's super fucking boring. But I did get a handful of good laughs out of it, and there's a good John Carpenter score. 2 out of 5.
This movie's dookie. 1 out of 5.
Yep. I was thinking, like, so usually it's like, oh, this is a bad movie. Usually I fall back to like a 3. You know, it's still like above average on a rating, but still, I like to be generous. But then, like, they burned the cat, so we're gonna have to fucking dock off for that. And by the end of the film, like, I was trying to catch myself awake. I still want to, like, share this with friends, to laugh at in some capacity. And again, that John Carpenter score, I'm gonna keep it from being like that low for it. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.
Well, that will give Firestarter 2022 an average of 1.7 out of 5 odds.
It's pretty low.
We predicted this one, but we don't have opening weekend yet.
Yeah,
right?
we'll wait till next week.
We'll save it. We'll save it for next week. Next week, speaking of, is another new film, but a film that I expect to be considerably better than this. It's time for the new Alex Garland film, Men.
Men is going to be such a palate cleanser.
Yeah, dude, I'm legitimately very excited for this film. We've been seeing the trailers for a little while, and boy, it sure does look good. Ooh. And Alex Garland has put out some of my just absolute favorite media of the last like 6 or 7 years. Ex Machina, Annihilation, Devs. My man is just like, he's in a renaissance. Mm-hmm. So I have no reason to think that Men will not be great. But until then,
we have a sponsor.
Indeed.
We gotta sponsor it up, ladies and gentlemen.
We gotta get paid for this bullshit
we
somehow.
We gotta get our dues. We gotta get our dues made. And so this week, Pod People was brought to you by Whatever the Dog Doing. What's the dog doing?
What the dog doing?
It's you know what? The dog.
Timeless question.
He's
What
doing,
the dog doing?
He's doing fine.
You doing fine?
He's doing fine.
Not how the dog doing. What the dog doing?
That is the deeper question.
That is the deeper question.
But on this episode,
we all know how the dog is doing. but
we're
what
being
the dog
paid to
doing?
ask what the dog doing, not how the dog doing.
Whatever he's doing, that's what's paying our bills this week.
What's the dog doing? Getting us that money.
And that's all that matters, right?
International crime.
What the dog doing? Robbing banks.
Crimes of the future, am I right?
Future dog crimes.
All right.
It's time.
It's time. That'll do it for us this week. If you like the show, why don't you leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? That would be cool.
Please.
You can also support us at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. You can become a patron of the show. Shout out to honorary podboy Sam Simon, and also special shout out to our newest honorary podboy, Zach Confer.
Hey.
Zach, welcome. Thank you, brother. We appreciate your support, and we're happy to have you on the show.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So if you want to be like Sam and Zach, again, you can head over to patreon.com/podpeoplepod.
Appreciate you.
You can also follow us on Twitter at podpeoplepod and at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. You can follow me on Twitter at SomeSpookySnake.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And I'm occasionally tweeting for Light Arc Studios. We put out progress on It Stares Back. And you can find my work on dreadxp.com, where there's all sorts of cool games that we're cooking up for you. Most recently,
More like Dread Sex P, am I right?
oh, it's pretty great. I will neither confirm nor deny. But what I will say is, you can go check out the 5th DreadX collection. If it's not out, it is soon to be out. Also, Hand of Doom is available for wish listing on Steam as well. You absolutely should. If you like spooky eclectic wizards and doom metal, like, it's the game for you. We're extremely excited about it. It's gonna be rad. I've been having a lot of fun helping paint wizards for that game, so it's nice to talk about it.
Well, that'll do it. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep that fire burning inside you.
Smokey the Bear can suck my dick.